Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty fascinating concept, the idea that language doesn't just describe reality, but it actually creates it.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful idea, isn't it? It's this modelo de lenguaje en acción, or LAM.
Lamb. Hmm.
LAM. It's often used in leadership circles and by organizations, but it's really relevant to all of us because it explores how our words are more than just sounds. They're actions that can shape the world around us.
So like how we use language to actually make things happen, not just, talking about stuff.
Exactly. That's the core idea here. Our words have a real transformative power.
So it's not just about casual conversation. This is about using language strategically.
You got it. And one of the key concepts in LAM is the idea of actos linguisticos, or speech acts.
Speech X. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Think of them as the building blocks of communication, like
Yeah.
ingredients in a recipe or tools in a toolbox.
I like the toolbox analogy. So what kind of tools are we talking about?
Well, there are five main types of speech acts: declarations, promises, requests, offers, and assertions. Each one has a specific function and a way of influencing the situation.
Okay, so let's break those down, starting with declarations. What are those all about?
Declarations are powerful. They're statements that bring things into being. Often they rely on authority and context, like when a company's CEO announces, "We're launching a new product line."
So it's not just an idea anymore. It
Um,
becomes real because they said it.
Precisely. The declaration makes it so. And the source material actually had a cool example about a project launch event where the leader's declaration really set things in motion.
Oh, I bet. I could see how that energy would shift when someone in a position of authority makes that kind of statement.
Hmm.
Okay, so declarations are about making things official. What about promises?
Promises. Those are all about commitment and trust. When someone makes a promise, they create an expectation that something will be done. And when that promise is broken, well, it can really damage trust.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Broken promises can have a big impact. Think about a time someone promised you something and then didn't follow through. It can really sting and make you question their reliability.
Absolutely.
Same.
Trust is a fragile thing, and promises play a big role in building and maintaining it.
Makes you realize how much weight our words can carry.
Yeah.
So we've got declarations, making things official, promises, establishing commitment. What's next?
Next up, we have requests, which are pretty straightforward. They're about asking for something to be done. But here's the thing. The way we make a request can really impact its effectiveness.
Meaning, like, how you ask is just as important as what you ask for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Clarity and tone are crucial. Have you ever made a request that was so vague the other person was just like, huh?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Sometimes I realize after I've said something that it makes total sense in my head, but then it comes out all jumbled, and I have to backtrack and explain what I really meant.
That's a perfect example. A clear, specific request is much more likely to get you what you want than something vague and confusing.
Okay, so clarity is key. And probably a respectful tone doesn't hurt either. What about offers? Do those fall under speech acts too?
They sure do. Offers are about extending a proposal for collaboration or assistance. They're a way of saying, hey, I'm here to help, or let's work on this together.
And those can be really powerful in fostering a sense of teamwork and shared purpose.
Absolutely. Imagine a coworker struggling with a task, and you say, hey, I've got some free time this afternoon. Would you like some help with that?
That can make such a difference.
Does
So
it?
knowing someone has your back can be a huge motivator.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably feels good to be the one offering that help too. Like you're making a positive contribution.
Exactly. Offers can really strengthen those bonds of collaboration and support.
Okay, so we've got declarations, promises, requests, offers. What's the last type of speech act?
The final one is assertions. Assertions are statements of fact or observation. They're about sharing information to establish a shared understanding of the situation.
So like if you're working on a project and you say, I've finished my part.
Exactly. You're not making a promise or a request. You're simply stating a fact to keep everyone informed.
Right, so it's like laying the groundwork for a shared reality, making sure everyone is on the same page. But I'm curious, how do all these speech acts actually work together to get things done? It can't just be a random mix of declarations and requests, right?
You're right. There's a process to it. And that's where the ciclo de la acción, or action cycle, comes in. It's a framework that outlines how these speech acts actually lead to results.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about this action cycle.
It typically begins with a request or an offer. Someone needs something done or someone steps up to help. And then from there, it unfolds in a series of steps that move the action forward.
Okay, I'm already starting to see how this could apply to so many situations. So walk me through this action cycle. Where does it all begin?
So imagine you're planning a trip with friends.
Okay.
It might start with someone saying, "Hey, let's go on a road trip this summer."
I can already see where this is going. That sounds like an offer.
Right. You got it. It's an offer that throws an idea out there and opens up the possibility for collaboration.
And then everyone chimes in with their own ideas and suggestions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the second step, negotiation. This is where everyone clarifies their expectations, asks questions, and tries to get on the same page.
Like figuring out where you want to go, how long you'll be gone, what you want to do.
Exactly. It's all about ironing out those details and making sure everyone's vision for the trip aligns.
Right, because you don't want to end up on a hiking trip when half the group was hoping to spend the week on the beach.
Exactly. So you negotiate, you clarify, you make sure everyone's on board, and then comes the crucial part, commitment.
Okay, so this is where things start to get real.
Yeah.
People are making promises saying, yeah, I'm in. I'll book the flights, or I'll find us a great place to stay.
You got it. And those promises are super important because
Right.
they solidify the plan and create a sense of accountability.
Because we all know what happens when promises are broken. It can really throw a wrench in the works.
Exactly. So you've got the offer, the negotiation, the commitment, and then comes the exciting part, execution. This is where the rubber meets the road and those promises turn into action.
So this is where you're actually booking those flights, packing your bags, hitting the road.
Precisely. The speech acts have set the stage, and now it's time to see them translate into tangible results.
And I imagine there's a lot of satisfaction in seeing that plan come to life.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the final step, confirmation of satisfaction. This is where everyone checks in to see if the outcome met their expectations. Did the trip live up to the hype? Were there any hiccups along the way?
So it's like a debrief. A chance to celebrate the wins and learn from any mistakes.
Exactly. It's a valuable feedback loop that helps to build trust and improve future collaborations.
You know what I love about this action cycle is that it's not just about grand projects or formal agreements. It applies to everyday interactions, too.
It absolutely does. Think about those small acts of collaboration that happen all the time, like asking a friend to help you move or offering to pick up groceries for an elderly neighbor.
Or even just deciding what to have for dinner with your family.
Exactly. Those everyday interactions are all driven by speech acts, too.
Yeah.
And understanding the cycle can help us navigate those situations with more awareness and intention.
It's like having a roadmap for effective communication and collaboration.
Exactly. And speaking of collaboration, I remember that example from the source material about that team working on the website redesign.
Oh, yeah. They were tasked with creating a whole new website and had a pretty tight deadline, if I remember correctly.
That's right. And what's fascinating is how they use these speech acts so naturally and effectively to move that project forward. It was like watching the action cycle unfold in real time.
I'm ready to hear how it all went down.
Yeah.
So set the scene for me. Who were these people and what were their roles on the team?
Okay, so picture this. You've got Sarah, the team lead. She's known for her clear vision and her ability to rally the troops. Then there's Miguel, the creative genius behind the visuals. And finally, you have Lena, a whiz with data and user experience.
Okay, I can already see the team dynamics at play. The leader, the artist, and the data guru. So what was the first speech act that kicked off this project?
It was Sarah, the team leader. She stepped up with a powerful declaration. She said, "We're launching this new website in 2 months." Just like that, she set a clear deadline and established a sense of urgency.
Wow, that's a bold move. No room for ambiguity there. It's like she drew a line in the sand and said, this is our target and we're going to hit it.
Exactly. And notice how Miguel followed up with a strategic request. He said, "Can you share those brand guidelines, Sarah? I need them to make sure the design is consistent with the overall brand."
That's smart. He's not just jumping into the design head first. He's making sure he has all the information he needs to create something that's both beautiful and aligned with the brand identity.
Right. And Lena, seeing an opportunity to contribute, offered, "I can analyze the user data from the old website to see what worked and what didn't. That'll help us make the new design even better."
Okay, I love how these speech acts are already working together like pieces of a puzzle. They have a clear goal, a request for essential information, and a valuable offer of expertise. What happened next?
Sarah, recognizing the importance of Lena's offer, responded with a promise. She said, "I'll make sure you have access to that data by the end of the day, Lena." Simple but powerful.
Right. It shows that Sarah values Lena's contribution and is committed to supporting her. It's also a great example of how promises build trust within a team.
Exactly. And you can see how these speech acts are already shaping the reality of the project. They're guiding the actions, clarifying roles, and laying the groundwork for a successful collaboration.
It makes you realize that sometimes the simplest conversations can be the most impactful. It's not always about grand speeches or formal presentations. It's those everyday interactions where we make requests, offer help, and commit to taking action.
You got it. And what's so fascinating about LIM is that it helps us understand these everyday interactions on a deeper level. It's like having X-ray vision for communication.
I love that analogy. So we're not just hearing the words anymore. We're seeing the underlying intentions, the commitments, the offers of collaboration that are driving the conversation forward.
Exactly. And once we start to see those patterns, we can start to use them more consciously and effectively.
It's like learning a secret language that unlocks the power of communication.
In a way, it is. And remember, we talked about the importance of context and authority.
Right, because the same words can have totally different meanings depending on who says them and where they're said.
Exactly. Like,
Right.
imagine if instead of Sarah, the team lead, making that declaration about the launch date, it was Miguel, the creative director. It might not have carried the same weight.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
People might have seen it as a suggestion or a hopeful timeline rather than a firm decision.
Precisely. Authority plays a big role in how we interpret and respond to speech acts.
And context matters too.
Mm-hmm.
If they were having this conversation in a casual brainstorming session versus a formal project meeting, those speech acts would be perceived differently.
Absolutely. Context shapes everything.
It's amazing how much complexity is woven into our everyday conversations. And LAM helps us unravel those threads and understand the nuances of communication in a whole new way.
You got it. And speaking of nuances, we talked about those 4 key principles of LAM: clarity, active listening, responsibility, and building trust.
Right. Those felt like the foundation for making this whole thing work. So how do they tie into everything we've been discussing?
Well, they're like the pillars that support effective communication. Using LAM clarity ensures that everyone understands the intended meaning behind those speech acts. Active listening helps us tune into the needs and perspectives of others. Responsibility ensures that we follow through on our commitments. And building trust, well, that's essential for creating a collaborative and supportive environment.
It's like they create a fertile ground for those speech acts to take root and flourish.
I like that analogy. And you can see how these principles were at play in that website redesign example. Sarah's clear declarations set the stage for everyone to understand the goals and deadlines. Miguel's active listening prompted him to request the brand guidelines to ensure consistency. Lena's offer to analyze user data demonstrated her willingness to contribute. And Sarah's promise to provide that data built trust and reinforced the collaborative spirit.
It's like a symphony of communication where each element plays a crucial role in creating a harmonious and productive outcome.
Exactly. And the cool thing is that this isn't just limited to work or professional settings. These principles apply to all areas of life.
So we can use LAM to improve our relationships, navigate family dynamics, even have more productive conversations with our kids.
Absolutely. Think about it. We use these speech acts in every interaction, whether we're conscious of it or not. It's like we're all speaking this hidden language of speech acts all the time without even realizing it.
Right. And LAM gives us the tools to decode that language and use it to our advantage.
Exactly. It's like learning to speak fluent communication.
Okay, so let's talk about how we can actually apply LAM to those different areas of life. You mentioned relationships and family dynamics.
Yeah, those can be tricky sometimes, right? Emotions run high, communication can break down, and it's easy to fall into those same old patterns of conflict.
Oh, totally.
Right.
So how can LAM help us navigate those choppy waters?
Well, let's say you're having a disagreement with your partner.
Okay.
Instead of getting caught up in that back and forth of accusations and blame, you could take a step back and try to identify the speech acts that are driving the conflict.
So like what's the underlying message? Are they making a request? Are they expressing a frustration?
Exactly. And once you understand the speech act, you can respond in a more constructive way. Maybe they're making requests for more quality time and you're making an assertion about your need for alone time.
Okay, that's a classic conflict right there.
Mhm.
So how do you use LAM to bridge that gap?
By recognizing those needs and then using speech acts to negotiate a solution. Maybe you could offer to spend some quality time together on the weekend and then carve out some alone time for yourself during the week.
It's like turning a potential argument into a collaborative problem-solving session.
Exactly. And it can work wonders with kids, too.
Oh, I bet. Because they're little masters of speech acts, even if they don't know it.
They really are. They know how to make requests, promises, even declarations to get what they want.
And sometimes it feels like they're negotiating with you 24/7.
That's parenting for you. But by understanding LAM, you can help them learn to communicate more effectively, too. You can teach them about clear requests, responsible promises, and the importance of following through on their commitments.
It's like giving them the building blocks for healthy communication.
Exactly, and those skills will serve them well throughout their lives.
You know what I'm realizing is that LAM is not just a communication model, it's a life skill.
It really is. It's about understanding the power of our words and using them intentionally to create the relationships and outcomes we want.
It's like being given the keys to the kingdom of communication.
It's a powerful tool, isn't it? And the best part is it's available to all of us. We just need to learn how to use it.
Well, I think this deep dive has been a fantastic introduction to the world of LAM. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm excited to start putting these ideas into practice in my own life.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you. I think one of the biggest takeaways is this. We're all capable of becoming more effective communicators. We just need to pay attention to the way we use language and make a conscious effort to choose our words wisely.
So as we wrap up today's deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this conversation?
I hope they'll remember that language is a powerful tool. It's not just about expressing ourselves, it's about shaping our reality. By understanding the power of speech acts and using them intentionally, we can create a more positive and fulfilling world for ourselves and for those around us.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Modelo de Lengua en Acción, or LAM. I hope you've enjoyed this exploration of how language shapes our world as much as we have. Until next time, keep those speech acts flowing, keep those conversations meaningful, and keep using the power of language to create positive change.